Doing all right? I could, but I just go back and go back. I don't like it that much, so. I'm gonna-
The host just asked me to unmute.
Can it have diamonds?
Well, the host just asked me. Okay.
I'd like to call the word to the Rapid City Area School Board of Education meeting. I roll call.
Troy Carr.
Here.
Jamie Clapham. Here. Christine Stephenson.
Here.
Deb Baker.
Here.
Kate Thomas. Here. Michael Berkland.
Here.
And Walt Swan.
Here. Tonight's invitation will be led by Greg Long. Pastor Greg.
There, green is good. Good thing, standing room only tonight, huh? Be good for you guys. Hopefully you get out of here on time. Well, it's wonderful to see you all here tonight. And I just want to say I'm grateful again for the privilege to that you allow us to come and to pray for you and just to ask God's favor on the decisions that you'll be making that impact the entirety of the city. Some of you know me, some of you don't know me. I come from a long line of teachers. Mom was an elementary school teacher, grandma was an elementary school teacher, and I'm a teacher of kids of all ages. And so I have a vested interest in what goes on in the public school system. And I just want you to know that even though everybody doesn't always agree on everything, you have people that are praying for you regardless what stands anybody is making, because none of us, I'll tell you this, none of us want your job. Amen. Amen. All right. So with that, would you mind if I pray for you? Father, we open this evening inviting your presence here. We invoke your presence here. Let your grace and your peace be evident to all. We're thankful that you love the people of Rapid City and you want what's best for us. We acknowledge tonight that our state motto declares that under God, the people rule. And as a community, we're grateful to the men and women that you have allowed to govern us. Give them wisdom to seek your guidance as they bear the privilege and responsibility to lead the people of Rapid City. Help them to make decisions that would honor you and thus expect your abundant favor. And this we ask for your name and your glory. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Do we still do the pledge?
Yes.
All right.
Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. This time we like to need a motion to approve the proposed agenda.
Make a motion.
Deb,
I'll second.
Mrs. Clapham. Sure don't need discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay, person wishing to address the school board. We have one, and Florence, you only have 5 minutes, even though there's 30 minutes allowed for the whole time.
Do all 30 minutes?
Not tonight, maybe some other time.
Oh, yeah, I'll remember you said that.
All right.
Okay. Well, gee, if I'd known I was the only one talking, I would have prepared the Gettysburg Address, but actually the Gettysburg Address was short. My name is Florence Thompson. I'm president of South Dakota Parents Involved in Education, and I'm a retired school psychologist with over 40 years experience in the schools. I was just talking with Mr. Swan, and we were talking about some of our experience working in the reservation schools. And I spent quite a bit of time particularly on the Pine Ridge Reservation, working down there. And I also lived there for a couple of years. So I have a lot of experience with Native kids and Native culture. Anyway, I'm kind of skipping around tonight because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to talk about. I'd like to say I'm really glad also that we do have a prayer at our meetings. I'd like to clarify again, and I've done this before, maybe it's been several years ago, The United States Constitution does not have separation of church and state. That is a kind of a custom that came in with a letter that was written from, can't remember, Thomas Jefferson to somebody else. And the phrase caught on, and it's been used to justify driving religion out of the schools. And as you know, many of our schools, our colleges were formed by Christian communities. They were formed as Christian schools to have Christian education. And so it was not, there's no separation of church and state in the Constitution. So we have a right to pray in public schools, and that has been established in our by our state legislature, has been reinforced by them. It was established by the during the Trump administration, well, reemphasized by them at their education department, and the state legislature reaffirmed that with a resolution that students, teachers, and others have a right to pray in public schools. Students can bring Bibles to school. Students can bring Qurans to school. Students can bring T-shirts to school that say have religious themes. So we're not driving religion out of the schools. I belong to an organization that's been labeled a hate group. And because we speak out against the corruption that's going on right now in our society and in our schools, the thing that is dragging our children down, attempting to. And there's a passage in the Bible, and I should have looked it up, but it talks about it's better to have a millstone tied around your neck and be thrown into the sea than to offend against one of the little ones. And the US Parents Involved in Education now has an award they call Millstone of the Month. And we are going to be highlighting generally people on the national scene that are probably deserving of a millstone. So we are in a spiritual battle. And I'm sure you all know this. You sense it, you know it for sure. And you can say, well, we're not political, but Marxism is politics. And if you tend toward that, that is absolutely political. And to say that we're not political when we're promoting that in our books, in our libraries, et cetera, that is completely false, because Marxism is political, and anyone who is a Marxist knows it's absolutely political. So we pray for our children, and we thank you for having a clergyman here to pray for us all. Thank you.
Thank you. Board response to open forum? Seeing none, I will move on. Conflict of interest, we didn't receive any. Okay, approval of the proposed consent agenda. Any member would like anything pulled? Did I speak in German? No, I said it in English. Okay, no. All right, here we go. So I need a motion to approve the proposed consent agenda. So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Berkland, Mrs. Thomas, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, signify by the same sign. Okay. We might be in the Guinness World Book of Records here. I'm kind of scared of what's going on.
President Carr, I hate to say, I forgot to put the superintendent report on.
Okay, all right.
I was just gonna add myself to other, if that's okay, Bishop Carr.
Yes, let's do that. So we're at other, and so in this section, we will give space to Superintendent Swider for her report.
Thank you, Bishop Carr and board. So once again, it's been a couple of weeks since I've seen you because the last time you met, I was at the South Dakota State Superintendent's Conference. I will report back on a couple of things that happened there in a minute, but it's nice to see everybody. Since our last meeting that I attended, we have interviewed and hired for 3 different positions. We interviewed and hired a principal for Valley View Elementary. Valley View is our largest elementary school. It is currently a title school, although we do need to raise up our number of free and reduced applications at that school to maintain our title status there. We have to be at 35%, and this spring they were at 32%. So we have 3% difference there, and if we don't raise that up, we will lose our title designation for Valley View. But I'm excited to say that we hired a gentleman named Jeff Fuller. He is joining us from Wyoming. He comes with significant principal and leadership experience, including a curriculum director position most recently. And he is super excited to get started. You approved his employment tonight and he is starting tomorrow. So, and I will say that he has been in the building numerous times already to touch base with that staff and is excited to get going. So I'm thrilled that he will be joining us tomorrow. I have also attended the FBI threat assessment training. That was a training I felt very honored to be invited to participate in because it was local law enforcement, Park Service, the fire department. It just had a variety of emergency service personnel there. It was put on by the regional FBI office out of Minneapolis, and it really talked about forming a local team. And so I'm excited to share that we also hired a school safety manager. And that gentleman is Matt Sargent, and Matt Sargent has significant experience within our school district and with the Pennington County Sheriff's Office. He is joining us. He is joining us out of his retirement, but he worked for a number of years with the Pennington County Sheriff's Office, was a school resource officer at Dakota, and then at Stevens High School, led the Pennington County Sheriff's SRO department, has his own threat assessment company that he does threat assessment evaluations for businesses, and he is joining us and will start August 14th. I know that I myself and many school leaders are excited to have him help guide us through the safety evaluation and what we need to look at changing in the future in our schools to make them safer for our students and our families and our community. As I said, I attended the state superintendent meeting. There was great keynote speakers. One was on leadership, and it was Terry Nebelsack, who is a well-known superintendent from various places in South Dakota. One thing that he did call out to everybody's attention is the fact that historically in South Dakota, you worked your way up as an administrator. You became hopefully a principal of a large school. And then if you decided you wanted to be a superintendent, you had to go back to a small school and kind of you had to decide you were going to take a cut in pay. You were going to go back to a small school and be a superintendent. And he pointed out that 3 large school districts in the past 2 years have named local superintendents. And he basically said that he believes that that is a good change to have local leadership rise up and be able to step into a district program immediately, knowing the district and the staff. So I found that was interesting coming from somebody who has a lot of experience in the state of South Dakota. He did call out Rapid City. So just so you know, you were mentioned in your work there. We also had a keynote speaker about student engagement. And I've shared with you before that student engagement has become a little more challenging with the amount of screen time many children have, and as quick as the pictures change on the screen, students kind of expect classrooms to change that quickly, and school and reading a paper book looks a little bit different than that screen time. So it was really nice to have someone speak about engagement and ways that we can help grow that in our student body moving forward. So I appreciated that. And the other keynote, or the other person that spoke that really resonated with me, was Dr. Graves out of the Department of Education, came and spoke. And one of the things I really very much appreciated about Dr. Graves is, as you all know, I value people who take responsibility, who recognize when something has gone wrong and they need to step up and say, it's not going the way we thought it was, and I take responsibility. And Dr. Graves stood up in front of all the superintendents in South Dakota and said, the new teacher certification process is not going well. And he owned that. So I want you to know that if you're hearing from local teachers that are applying for their renewal of certification or their first certification, we are all very aware of in the state that the new process that was supposed to be better has in fact not worked out that way. They are working on it, and we have the permission of the Department of Education to extend current teaching certificates until October 1st, and possibly we'll need to extend it further than that. And also employ and hire and pay incoming teachers at the rate they would be paid with them being fully certified. And so to have that state backing was really important to hear. He also addressed the fact that we have a hiring crisis in the state of South Dakota, and I'm going to address that locally in a couple seconds here. But one of the things that we've been limited to in the past is that a long-term sub can only serve so many days, and if they're not certified. And the State Department of Ed has also recognized the need to adjust that. So I have informed HR, and we're working through the ability to address the need that we may have subs in classrooms as the year goes on. One position that we have not been able to fill at this time is the Title VI Indian Education Manager or Specialist position. We have interviewed, Mrs. Talley and I have interviewed 5 or 6 people. We have offered 4 people the position. For a variety of reasons, people have determined not to take it, so that position remains open. I want the board to know that we are actively pursuing qualified applicants for that position. When I said manager or specialist, we felt that maybe the expectation of a master's degree and leadership experience was holding people back. So we also listed it as a specialist. We thought we could grow leadership and then move them up to a manager position. In both cases, people we are in both categories, we've lost people to other roles, or we've heard the same comment we've heard numerous times, that it's too expensive to live in Rapid City, or they can't find housing, or a variety of situations like that. So I just want you to know that we are continuing to work. That is one leadership position that we will not have filled at the start of the school year, and that is concerning. But we do have strong leadership in that federal department, and I think that we will be able to move forward, tapping on the expertise of the new federal programs director and Dr. Justin Conroy, who is the Title I principal. So I feel that we can wait for the right candidate to come forward and serve our community in that position. We have a hiring crisis, and we've been having conversations within the district with downtown leadership and principals. last week, we had 160 some positions, both certified and non-certified or hourly staff posted on our website. That crisis comes in on the hourly side with a drastic need for bus drivers. We are in worse shape for bus drivers than we even were last year when we started the year, canceling a couple of routes. We are considering bell schedule changes so that we can run 2 routes at buildings that are nearby. We need to make a decision on that fairly soon. We know how it impacts our families when we need to cancel bus routes. But we do not have certified drivers that we can put in those positions. So we are working on that. We also need custodians, clerical positions, and our area of the most need for support staff is paraprofessionals. We have 42 unfilled paraprofessional positions currently posted on our website. Paraprofessionals are essential to what happens in our classrooms. These are individuals that help individual students or classrooms of students or learning centers. They give so much support and care to our young people. But we are competing drastically with every other employer in Rapid City that is searching for employees. And I think one of the things that is a strike against us in that arena is that we don't employ paraprofessionals during summer. So over the course of the summer, we lose people to other jobs and they don't necessarily come back. And that is not something that we can change. We don't have kids year round. And so paraprofessionals don't have classrooms to work in the summer, though that is a drastic concern. We are working diligently on that as well, but that is a worse position than we were in even a year ago when we needed, I think, we started the year with 39 positions unfilled. Classified or certified staff wise, we have 25 certified teaching positions not filled. 10 of those are elementary classroom positions. Because they are classrooms that have students, that will have students in them in just 3 weeks, we are, as a district, making some decisions on moves. Yesterday, I sent out an email asking for volunteers for elementary certified staff serving in non-classroom positions. These are still valuable, necessary positions in our district. This is literacy and instructional support and math support. These are teachers on special assignments. These are teachers who coach, co-teach. They are important, but they don't have a classroom of their very own. And so we have asked some of them to consider voluntarily moving into the 10 classrooms that are currently without a teacher assigned to them. We have had some volunteers, so I'm very impressed and happy to say that our teachers continue to step up to the plate, but all of those classrooms will have to have teachers. So on Monday, we'll be making some placements for staff that will need to move into those rooms for classes we still don't have filled, because we need to have that figured out for students to have teachers in front of them when they start school in 3 weeks. We also hired a federal programs director. So I'm thrilled to announce that Jennifer Strong will also be joining us tomorrow. We have people ready to get right on board. That does allow her 10 days to work with Mrs. Talley before she officially leaves the district, that overlap will be very beneficial as Mrs. Talley will be holding meetings with all the title buildings and going over their title plans. As staffing needs have changed and principals have also been fantastic and great about making adjustments in their buildings with their staff, title plans have had to change as well. As those positions that I mentioned that are unfilled, 8 of them are in title buildings. So title plans are being adjusted as we speak, and Jennifer will be on board to go through that process. She does come to us with a variety of experience, including being a principal, being a teacher, working for TIE, and working with the state. So her experience working with the state will benefit her greatly in that role, joining us as federal programs director. I served last week on a committee, a task force with the Department of Education that Dr. Graves asked me to serve on. It was called Alternative Pathways to High School Completion. You know, that is one of my passions, is the students who are overaged and undercredited and really don't see themselves finishing high school. And I strongly believe we need to give them something to hang their hat on. We just started talking about 3 options. One of the 3 we already offer in Rapid City. So one of the 3 is the GED in district GED program, which we offer. And I hope you know, many of you have been to the GED celebration. We're very successful in that. We have the greatest numbers in the entire state. And that includes the adult GEDs. We surpass them in Rapid City. So we have a very successful program, and I think that might be the model from some other districts to pick up. I know Harrisburg recently modeled their program after us. The second option is new. It is like a amped up GED. It's called GED option 2. And it is students who choose to go the GED route plus do certain high school classes like personal finance, do some jobs studies, some internships, do some work in that realm. And if they complete, they haven't lined out everything exactly how it'll be, but if they complete all of the steps in this option 2, they will get a GED diploma. So it'll be closer to a regular high school diploma than just the GED, but it won't be a full high school diploma. So it's called the GED option 2. We're talking that through. And the third option is probably the one that I'm most excited about. It is a work-based learning completion credential. It is a completer certificate. It is not a high school diploma. It only would require 15 and a half high school credits. We require 22. Of those 15 and a half high school credits, 4 of them would be in job. They would get credits for working. So they would come just part of the day, and part of the day they would work. I think this would appeal to quite a few of our students who are behind in their English and math, because it only requires 2 credits of English to get this completion certificate and 1 credit of math, which I do kind of have heartburn about, but I know that many of our kids who drop out, that is about where we stand. So I think they really took a realistic approach to divvying down the number of credits that they would need. It does require things that I think are very important for students who are possibly looking at not finishing high school, like personal finance. How do you manage your finances, especially if finances are limited? It would require a change in South Dakota statute. So the Department of Ed is looking at that. We're going to continue meeting, and I'll keep you updated. It would be something that we'd probably be looking at for the 25 or 25-26 school year. I took a 3-day staycation, and I'm only telling you that because I distinctly remember in my evaluation being told to take some time and not live here. So I took a 3-day staycation, and that was lovely. The hail at Pactola was not lovely, but everything else was. This week, Valerie Seal's department has been holding the data retreats, and that work is focusing on the school improvement plans. I know that it's tempting to find teachers on the school improvement plan, but that is not what school improvement plans are about. They're about raising student success. But I greatly appreciate principals recognizing that there are things that we need to be aware of, and maybe it needs to go on a plan somewhere, right? But not necessarily an individual school improvement plan. That work is being done. I met with Ty. I'll be bringing forth a grant that they actually wrote for a school on the reservation that has pulled out. It is a tutoring program for K-1-2 literacy. It takes retired educators and brings them in Monday through Thursday for a couple of hours a day to work with 4 students at a time for a half an hour on raising literacy. And the school gets to pick those students, and that it will be focusing at Knollwood, General Beetle, and Horace Mann, because those are the schools that meet the same requirements of the original grant. But I do want to share that that is exciting to have another opportunity, especially when we are looking at not having all of the literacy and teacher support because we've had to move people into teaching positions, to have another opportunity in these title buildings to increase time students get to spend on literacy is really exciting. So I'm glad when things come together. The South Dakota School Board Convention begins on Thursday, and I'm so excited that 5 people will be joining me this year, and I won't have to sit at a table by myself. Last year, I was the only person from Rapid City in attendance in person. I know some people attended virtually. I'm excited about that. Next week, we do have some strategic planning happening within our district that will be looking at those scorecards that we're talking about. So look forward to bringing that work forward to you. New teachers start next Wednesday. So next Wednesday morning, we'll be welcoming the new teachers at the Rapid City High School Theater. I believe that Shirley will be sending out an invite if you can attend and be there. The next week, current staff returns. And the next week on Monday, the 21st, that will be our district opener. And that takes place at the Monument in the Fine Arts Theater. The doors will be open at 7:30, and I will be introducing the strategic plan to the entire district. So really excited about that. Horace Mann, CEO, is going to come and talk to us about how even a large company aligns with strategic planning and our pillars. And they purchased our shirts for all of our employees this year. So I'm pretty excited to see what they end up looking like. And the next day after the district opener, school starts. So, yesterday was July and it was summer and it just felt like we had all the time in the world. And today is August and school starts very soon. So welcome to the life of educators, because that's exactly how we feel. July, oh, it's summer. August 1st, oh no, school's starting. So that's where we stand. So thank you very much for allowing me to present.
Thank you, Superintendent Swigert. Let's do this. Since we have others A and B, our next board members, if you have comments based on superintendent report, let's take those first, and then we'll have whatever other you individually have. So the chair will recognize, and I've been reading the Roberts rules, so I'm having all these different, different things that I say. So the chair recognizes Mrs. Thomas.
Thank you very much, President Carr. A couple of questions for you. So the literacy grant, how much is that?
It's the grant that I will use to pay the teachers that are coming in. So
Right.
we won't physically get the money.
Right,
Um,
okay.
It will go through Ty, but the grant allows us to accept the people coming in and doing the work. So I'll bring that forward and we'll determine if that is something that we want to.
Okay, so how much is it for? Or is it a certain amount of teachers or tutors? I mean, or,
We didn't get that. I didn't get that much in detail. I
okay.
just met with Dr. Gillespie from Ty yesterday just to run it by me and.
so would you be approving of, or have the board approve of what tutoring comes in? What literacy curriculum tutoring?
It will work with our district.
Okay.
Our
Literacy experts?
literacy, district literacy program.
Or what
So
are they
they would
called?
work with Val Seal's office to make
Okay.
sure that we're aligning with our current curriculum. It is not a separate
Sure. Sure.
offshoot of curriculum or any
Okay,
process.
next one is the GED option 2 or the completion certificate credentials. I know you said 24, 25, but maybe is it possible we could get a legislator meeting in September? Just even try, feel it out, ask them to come in. This is something that we have been talking about, the state's been talking about for too long. I want to at least maybe get it on their mind to maybe think about even coming forward with a bill of that flexibility for this one. And even if it doesn't get to that point, at least it's already on their plate and they can reword stuff maybe.
I'm feeling really good about this because it's the first time the Department of Education has been asked to bring a task group forward, a task force forward to do this work, which typically then reports back to the legislature and then something happens. So I think we are hopefully on the right path this time, but I definitely think that we have asked Shirley to set up a meet and greet with the legislators in October. And so I think starting that conversation early is always better.
And the reason I say that is because if you've got State Board of Education, they tend to be talking more towards East River. And as we all know, these Sioux Falls and us are two different beasts. So if we can get our legislators over here on board with sponsoring something or talking in that conversation sooner than later would be good. That's just my personal feeling. And then the teacher unfilled positions, tell me if I'm wrong. So you have to have a certified teacher in front of kids before you can actually sub it out, have subs in front of them, even if it's an extended period of time.
We have placed, we have had certified teachers agree to sub as a position was posted in the past, but it is ideal practice. We do not intend to start the year with a long-term sub in any of these positions. We intend to have certified teachers, but we may employ long-term subs to pick up backfill some of the pieces that were
Right.
not supporting by having moved these positions into classrooms. So,
I mean, it sounds like you're already, I hate the word thinking outside that box, but you have. But if we still need to have a long-term sub, then I know that's not ideal. But in order to get a long-term sub, you have to start the year with a certified teacher? Is that
I think that is one of the things that the state is saying we don't have to do anymore, that
Okay.
we can start with a certified long-term sub.
still has
or-
to have the certification though?
That's the preference. They don't necessarily have the certification in the right area though,
Hmm.
and that's
Okay.
where we need to work on. We had a lot of retirements last year. I think some of you came to the retirement party, so I've watched as the names have come across the board for certified subs this summer at our meetings. Hopefully, we can convince some of them to come back and sub for us. We are a school district, so we also have moms who have delivered and will be out on maternity leave for, you know, the beginning of the school year. And that is a place for long-term subs as well.
Okay, thank you.
Right. The chair recognizes Mrs. Stephenson.
Thank you, Mr. President. So piggybacking, because we're already talking about this teacher shortage, my heart breaks, and I'm sorry that you all are going through this, as I cannot imagine the stress of knowing that these classrooms need to be filled. I did wonder, you know, I just personal experience and then what I've heard in town, my daughter's going to kindergarten at Wilson, and instead of 3, they have 2 kindergarten, and instead of 3 first grade, they have 2. Is that included in the 40 or in the 25 certified teaching? We just eliminated those positions, or we moved them.
You know, sadly, the week prior to this week, we asked, it was over 60 positions were posted. Dr. Strasser's been sending out current enrollment numbers. Principals have had to make really hard calls. I thank you for bringing this up, because I think our community needs to recognize the fact that when these situations happen, class sizes are impacted. It is not a lack of our trying. We have had positions posted all summer long. I was talking to Principal Youngworth at South Park. He had an elementary position posted that hadn't had anyone apply in 2 months. So he made adjustments in his building. That we budgeted for it. We have, you know, we have spaces to hire people. We don't have people applying to fill those. We recognize that we have some significant work to do in the next year. Already there's meetings scheduled for negotiations, what we're going to need to be talking about as we move forward. I did 3 media interviews today about this situation. I think I lose sleep over not having teachers in front of, you know, hired to be in front of students right now. But I also lose sleep over the fact that we risk burning out teachers we do have because they have larger class numbers. That is of a far greater concern to me. We will maintain postings. We will hire people mid-year. If we have people come in and looking for a job and they're certified, we will work with them. It is not that we're making these decisions and shutting the door and just forcing it to be this way for the whole year. We are going to continue to work at recruiting and finding educators. HR had a meeting with Black Hills State today. We want to start having meetings with students going into education and talk about their future plans, and do they want to come and student teach with us. The state has freed up an advanced path to student teaching where we can pay teachers to student teach and be the teacher of record with support. Those are things that we are actively pursuing and having those conversations even now.
So just to be clear, when the community hears this, we have 25 teacher positions open, but we made 25 by putting more of a burden on the rest of our elementary school teachers.
Not just elementary, secondary courses have been doubled up, have been compressed. So I think it's important to realize that teachers at all levels are going to be impacted by our hiring crisis.
Is there, then the second part of this question is, I heard, well, one of the schools, the kindergarten, is just gonna have 2 sections, 14 kids each, because they don't have a lot of kids. Is there a way to, like, emergency, because we are in an emergency, redraw boundaries and say, actually, we need to shuttle more kids over to this school and less into this school?
You know, I think we can have those conversations with busing issues as well. That becomes a concern. I think one of the most challenging things about teacher shortages that I try to communicate out is, I'm gonna try to make the numbers easy, but let's say, this is not at all accurate, but let's say we had 1,000 first graders. We were prepping, we were hiring staff. We thought we were gonna have 1,000 first graders. And we end up with 970. So you think, oh, we lost 30, we lost a whole section. But what happened is we lost 2 students at each of our schools in first grade, which is not enough to not have a teacher because it's spread out over all 15 elementaries. And that really becomes the challenge, because you can lose 30 or 60 students in a grade across a district, but you don't lose them any place that you can impact teaching numbers. I think that Dr. Strasser is watching the numbers every single day. And I don't know if feels comfortable answering, but do we have a building with 14 kindergartners in 2 sections?
No, we don't. There's, everybody has either appropriate numbers or significantly top end of our soft cap numbers. So we are there. And a lot of it's because principals have made adjustments in-house, reducing sections. So we've made a lot of concessions to get to the point where we are that Ms. Swigert describing.
Thanks for that clarification, because we all know rumors fly.
Yep.
So another thing about the hiring, what does a change in bell schedule mean? Just so everybody knows that this might be coming.
A change in bell schedule would mean, for instance, if we bus to General Beetle in North, we could run the same bus twice. So one bus would pick up and drop off at General Beetle at the normal bell schedule time. And if we have to do something like that, North would have a delayed start time. So they would start a little bit later and get out a little bit later. So the bus could make one run and drop off at General Beetle, and then make another run and drop off at North. And then in the afternoon, they would pick up and drop off the General Beetle kids and then run back and pick up and drop off the North kids. So the one building, I was just totally throwing out North just as an example, but one building would start later and get out later so that we could run, the driver could run 2 routes.
Why don't we do that already? That seems really efficient.
Well, we don't do that already because we have many drivers that have other jobs. So they drive for us and then they leave and they go work for UPS or something. So we cannot do that universally because one of the things we recognize, like on snow days when we're running late, we have a significant reduction of bus drivers because we have bus drivers who are by that time at their other job.
Okay.
So, I mean, yes, those things sound easy, but even scheduling them with resources we have, it's more complicated.
So if we go to that, that'll be elementary, middle school shift.
It might be
most likely.
2 elementaries because, for instance, out in the valley, a bus might pick up some kids that go to Valley View and some kids that go to Rapid Valley. So one of those buildings might have to shift.
And that would be announced when?
It would be announced.
We're actively working on that, trying to align the logistics and understand where and how we can do that. Obviously, it's not simple. It sounds very simple, but it's not simple like most things we deal with, right? And so student transportation staff is actively working through that, trying to really understand where is this a possibility in terms of driver availability, in terms of geographic proximity of schools and the ability to make it work. But I will add to what Nicole said, in the many conversations that we have had specifically around the driver shortage, in moving boundaries and adjusting the proximity of the pickup radius and all these different things. Really, the staggered bell schedule continues to come back as one of our better ways to use our current resources, and is probably the most effective short-term strategy that we have for dealing with this shortage. And so I think it's something that we can pilot this year, and if it works really well, that we can continue to expand on and see how we can utilize it as we move into the future. So.
Okay, I'm gonna be done. Thanks.
Chair recognizes Mrs. Klein.
I promise I'll talk fast. One, I just wanted to say, as others have said, and just kind of be on the record, to our administrators, to the three of you, to the principals, right, to the teachers here, we appreciate you. We know this is hard, and I don't think you can pay me enough money to be doing all this mental gymnastics on a day to day, hour to hour. And that we really, 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 truly appreciate you for that. And the thinking outside the box, we're being as creative as possible. And I will say to kind of speak to Stephenson, and they said to do it as a pilot, but I grew up with the staggered schedule. That's how it always was. So actually when I moved here, it was like, wait, what? Everybody starts at the same time. So, you know, the other jobs does play a role, but if we piloted it, like I said, I grew up my entire K through 12 career, that's kind of how it was. So it can be very successful. And one question, and this would probably be really messy, so I think I know the answer, but so let's say we know, like, so we have our enrollment, so day one hits and we have, like I said, round numbers, we have 13,000 students on day one. And typically there will be some withdrawals. Would there be moves after that? Like if classes weren't the size we thought, or is it considered best practice to just leave everyone where they are? And I said, it's kind of more of a curiosity question, like what?
We do move based on numbers even after school starts. The interesting thing about Rapid City and our mobility rates, though, is we're starting school on August 22nd, but we will still be enrolling new students September 22nd. That is historically something we know that happens, especially in certain parts of town. We do have to be prepared for that. Teachers, it's super hard. Teachers work for the districts and their contract says as much, and they know that, but it's hard to have that conversation with a teacher who has started with kiddos. And then we get 2 weeks into school and we have a much greater need at another building and we have to make those calls. We do have processes in place to support those teachers to get them moved to the new building. The warehouse, the guys work incredibly hard to help move teacher material and help set up classrooms. Other administrators and teachers step up to help. It really is a community when those conversations have to happen. It is just a fact that we live in right now. Years ago, when we had a lot more staff and a lot more wiggle room, that was less likely to happen. But we have cut staffing to the quick and now we're cutting even deeper. And that happening is very likely a possibility.
And my only other comment was that I am excited that there are 6 of us going to ASPD, and I'm hopeful for just bouncing around ideas of other creative solutions because we're not on the ship by ourselves. And so I'm hoping to learn something new and be able to bring something back to help our district.
And I do want to thank Shirley, of course. She's always ahead of us, but the quorum notices are up. And everything. So this is a learning opportunity. This is not where school board business will be discussed. We will be learning. It's not a violation of open meeting laws. We are there to learn. And then hopefully we'll get to report back at the next meeting our takeaways. I'm not making anybody get up at 7 and meet with me.
Thank God. The chair recognizes Mr. Swan. Mr. Swan, can you turn your mic on and bring it closer to you? Thank you.
So I just have a few questions and then I'll be brief. The Title VI Indian Education Program remains a concern for me. I'm really concerned about that position. You know, as I talked with Dr. Strasser last week, I really am concerned about some things that are going on with Indian education, especially in the Rapid City area. And it is one of the things that came up during my campaign that we need to advocate more, I guess, a little more louder for our kids, especially of our Native American descent, because it's really one of these things that, we time and time again have proven we don't do very well on these on tests, and we really would like to get somebody in here that would be able to at least lead the district. So that remains my concern. My question is, will it remain open?
Yeah,
until
it
filled or?
absolutely, it is open. The funding is there. As I said, we have interviewed some great candidates and offered, and they have, for their reasons, elected to not join this team. As I said, I do feel good because I think Dr. Conroy can handle the budget, the application part well with Jennifer Strong as she comes on. And we'll continue to make adjustments to that position. If somebody, wants to come in and approach it in a different way, I'm open to discussion. We can amend our process there. I think there's a large competition for everybody, and this is just one of the areas that we're not seeing people who want to work in that position in our district because they're taking positions in other places.
I think I'd heard the Native community is not as large as you think, but I heard through the grapevine, oh, they've got it or somebody else has got it. I think I've heard that 3 times and I just had never really followed up on it. It is disheartening to hear, but it also, gives us time to, or at least gives me time to let people know still that are.
Rattle the bushes for me,
Yeah.
please.
The second question is, and I know this goes on to the teachers part of what we're doing, or you talked a little bit about backfilling, taking people from non-teaching positions into the classroom. Are we gonna lose anyone over this? I mean, really, it's like some of those times you work as a
It is a
teacher
risk.
and you start to move into into the specialty roles, you start to do the things that you love, teaching math, teaching science, teaching, reading. And then all of a sudden you turn around and they say, well, we need you back in the classroom. And they say, well, you know what, it's a career, are we losing anybody over that or is there I know
There is a potential. Last year I moved 3 teachers on special assignment out of the teaching, learning and innovation department here in this building into classrooms, and 2 resigned. Instead of going back into the classroom. That is why I really pushed the request for volunteers. I think that when someone makes the choice to do it, it goes much easier than the conversations that I'm going to end up having on Monday to fill the positions that are still not filled, because I'm going to have those conversations myself. I like looking people in the eye and meeting them and answering their questions and making sure that they know they are still valued as employees and members of Rapid City Area School, but this is where our need is. and it's entirely possible that by Tuesday, some people could walk away from their contracts, and that would break my heart because we're doing this for kids, and it is not an easy choice to make. It's not an easy request. And as I said, I value these roles. I was an instructional coach. I did work outside of the actual classroom for 3 years and served the high schools. I know the value that brings to a building. So I'm super sad that we are taking away or being forced into a corner where we have to look at taking away those support positions that are good for kids. But it's more valuable to ensure that a student has a teacher assigned to them on day one.
And will there be a priority given to the title schools and the Title I schools for this sort of move? Because I believe there used to be a requirement that you would have a certified teacher in those positions.
They have to be certified in order for title funds to be used for pay. Those teachers do have to be certified. We are looking at moving certified staff. It absolutely, you're 100% right. That is a requirement. I want to stress that of our 15 elementary principals, a number of them really thought outside the box, really came forward with plans to make changes in their building to support another building. We have fantastic elementary principals who have gone above and beyond, considering ways that they can streamline things in their building that is not the best for them. It's going to add more work to the principals in order to support our title buildings in need. We believe we have it down to, as of yesterday morning, 8 title positions. That is a huge shift. 10 buildings, we think that 2 can be served with, can be handled within the building. We believe we have it down to 8. As I said, I believe we have 3 volunteers. That takes it down to 5 would be placed. I'm taking volunteers through Friday, and then we'll make decisions on Monday about the other. So title schools are our priority to fill.
Good work. Thank you for that. In your conversations at the superintendent's conference, was there any at all, or conversations maybe with the Board of Regents and talking about exploring pre-service teacher pay? I mean, that really is one of those things. I mean, my daughter, she's a business major, and she graduated college. She went into the workforce. Actually, she went in and she went into a, I don't know, internship, I guess. She was paid quite handsomely, you know what I mean? And the thing about this is that that's the sort of stuff. Now she remains in that industry, and it's serving her well. So I'm just trying to think, there's got to be we're looking at a teacher shortage. We're looking at teachers, people not entering the teaching area. A lot of that was a deterrence for a lot of people not getting into the profession. So is there any way we can start, at least say in Rapid City wants to lead the way to get this done?
Mr. Swan, you just take away my thunder, I swear. We are crafting, Kelsey, Coy and I and Gary up in HR, we're working at crafting a plan. The state has given us permission, which is significant, but a plan where we would pay the student teachers who are in advanced track, which means they can be teacher of record, pay them a little less than we pay first year teachers because they're not certified yet, and they would be being supported by a certified teacher, pay them. But also we're looking at ways that we could support other student teachers into student teaching here and considering staying, even if they need the full student teaching experience. What can we do? We've thrown around some ideas. They pay to student teach, so maybe we pay for their last semester of college. Maybe we pay them para wages. Maybe we pay them more than para wages. Maybe we pay them sub wages. We are drafting that. Kelsey's working on verbiage of, if we're enter that kind of agreement with a student teacher, we would like to have first dibs on being able to offer them a teaching contract. So we're working on that, and we hope to bring a proposal in front of the board so that we have that in place for second semester student teachers.
Nice,
So.
thank you. One other thing, and then, I'll be quiet. One of the other things here is that, and I've always talked about this, when school calendars were designed, we were an agrarian society. We've progressed so much further in that. You talk about the use of buses, you talk about staggered schedules. Is there any type of conversation now going on about maybe a different school schedule? I mean, a school calendar, something year round, something where 2 months off, 2 weeks off after the 9 weeks, something like that. Keep it stretched out, keep the school year stretched out. So it looks like, so your paras are getting paid. Your teachers are getting paid. It's really one of those things because, I've been to other states that have agriculture as still their mainstream of income, and they've moved to year-round schooling. They understand the need for having year-round schooling to, it's about the kids. It's about getting educated. And when you run into these situations, is there any way saying, high school could start 2 weeks earlier, elementary can start 2 weeks earlier, something like that gives us a little bit of stagger room for drivers, and gives us a little stagger room for other pieces of instruction. You know what I mean? It's just me thinking out loud, but it does need something like this. Like you said, it's thinking outside the box, it's creating a new model, it's doing something that we're in a drastic, you're talking about this many positions being open. Maybe it's time for something of a change of that magnitude.
I've had this conversation with another board member, so I know you have somebody that will be happy to sit down and talk with you about it. I think the largest concern that we would need is community. Would need to know how the community feels about that. I would hate to lose even more educators because they value having, I think that's a big conversation. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have it. I think we should have it. But I think we need to get the right players at the table, which means community and staff, and hear what they have to say. We do pay our teachers year round. So we're primarily looking at clerical and paraprofessionals who do not work on the 12-month schedule, bus drivers. So I think we should set up a committee and investigate different calendar opportunities and bring that forward to the community. I wonder if we are not necessarily agriculturally based, but tourism based. We get an awful lot of pressure about they want us, the tourism industry, of course, wants us to start after Labor Day and get out before Memorial Day. Just today, I had an email from Visit Rapid City, somebody in Visit Rapid City asking me if we couldn't possibly discuss a later start so that there could be later possibilities for later family travel. And I said, we have to meet the state requirements for contact. And if we don't do that, in order to do that, if we start later, we have to go later. Last year was super hard for many of our staff because we went into through the first week of June. I think conversations would need to be had. I'm not disagreeing. Learning loss is a very valid reason to discuss having students meet more regularly so that we're not losing 12 weeks in a row and have that loss of education and then have to pull it back together. I just think that the board and leadership of the district would need to make sure that we're hearing all the voices and making a decision based on what our community wants before we would move forward with something like that.
I agree. Thank you, Superintendent.
All right, the chair recognizes Mr. Sassy.
President Carr, I would defer to Ms. Stephenson if she has further comments. I was just going to make some broad comments from my perspective on the situation.
So are you relinquishing your ability to speak all night or just temporarily you want her to go first?
So I would still like to speak. However, if Ms. Stephenson has comments that are directly related to any of the discussion items, certainly I would defer to her before I make any of my comments.
All right, the chair will substitute Mr. Sassy's hand and the chair will now recognize Mrs. Stephenson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks, Mr. Sassy. Two quick follow-ups. Is there a way for this board to offer a bonus for people already employed who are volunteering to change positions and go into a classroom?
I made that offer.
You have?
I did.
Okay. What was the bonus?
So hard to fill positions, I have a $3,500 stipend paid out over 3 years. I offered $5,000 for bonus, voluntary, $5,000 stipend for voluntary moves.
Paid out over 3 years or?
Paid out this year.
Okay.
We will have positions that are unfilled that far exceed that.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah, we have money.
We had a very significant conversation about that. I think, money is not the answer, but certainly asking someone in August to voluntarily leave a job that they applied for, went after, wanted, to move into a classroom at a school that is a title school that they did not apply to be at, needed an incentive. And so I did make that call.
And will you give that to people if they are forced into classrooms?
The verbiage in my email was that placements will get 3,500. I wanted to encourage volunteers to do that. I promise you that the conversation will come up on Monday if I have to place somebody, and then I will address that then.
Okay, thanks for that. The second thing is in terms of Indian Ed. I know there are people who work with Ty who have direct knowledge of grant administration, federal funds. I'm sure there are others. Have we considered contracting out until we can fill the position?
I don't think that I have absolutely no problem contracting out for services. I do not feel like we have that need because I think we can address it in-house. I think that between Jennifer Strong addressing the Indian Ed title grant, which falls under her office anyway, and Mr. Justin Conroy's work with Title 1D, we can cover that without the need to contract that out. However, I will probably be contracting out a little bit with Ty because they employ 3 previous federal grant directors that can help Jennifer Strong as she navigates through that. Any person I would have put in that federal program position director, I would have wanted to contract out some support. And we're lucky to have Ty here with 3 people they've taken away from us and can help with that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, the chair now recognizes Mr. Sassy. Thank you for your kindness.
Thank you, President Carr. Just a couple of thoughts. Great great commentary, great discussion. Superintendent Swigert has done an excellent job in responding to a lot of your thoughts. A couple thoughts from my perspective that I think are really important, maybe bigger picture things that as we have these conversations and as the community hears these conversations are really important to keep in mind. The first to me and probably the highlighted point is this is a really complex problem. It is a really, really difficult issue. There's layers and layers, lots of both internal factors that are feeding into this as well as external factors. Obviously, the media has been eager to discuss this. Superintendent Swigert did multiple interviews today. I filled in for her earlier in the week and did a couple, and trying to condense the complexity of this problem down to a 15-second talking point is impossible. And the very, very nice reporter who interviewed me one of the days said, well, what do you think the problem is? And I said, we absolutely don't have enough time to talk about this in this type of an interview. And so, those really long form discussions that you almost need like a 2-hour podcast to address that people could listen to, I think are really necessary to be able to dig deeply into this problem. I think it's also important for everyone to understand this was not a problem that was created overnight, right? I mean, this is a slow burning problem that has happened over the span of years and decades. And again, has a lot of different reasons and factors behind it. And I think obviously we are feverishly working on things, but at the same time, we need to be transparent about the idea that this won't be fixed overnight as well. We are not going to magically fix this problem in the span of 1 year. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. It's going to take resources. And I think that's important to be transparent about. Also, the idea that there is no way that we can rely on one strategy to address this issue. It's a complex issue. It has to be a multi-pronged strategy and approach to addressing this issue. One that has short-term, intermediate, and long-term action that ultimately we see turning the tide. And I think there are things that can't be ignored in this problem. The idea that certainly, as you heard Superintendent Swigert say, yeah, we understand money plays a major issue here, wages play a major issue, but certainly there are many other factors that I think rank as high as money that are leading to this issue. The idea that fewer and fewer people are entering these professions is a major issue. And I think it's now getting to the point where we're starting to see some of the trickle down solutions coming down from the state. I think it'll continue to be a conversation that will reach up to the federal level. And at some point we'll see federal reaction to that. But all those are things that take time and effort. I think bus driving in particular, bus driving is a niche position. It is a very, very odd schedule. And so pulling people into that position is difficult. When you look at the demographic breakdown of a lot of bus drivers, there are a lot of baby boomers, people that have reached retirement age that are moonlighting, that are doing different things. And so it's an area we really have to think outside of the box on what that looks like as we move forward in terms of how we structure the positions, how we think about pulling people into those positions. Education is a business that is very traditional. It's a we do business this way type of industry, and we really have to push ourselves. And I think Superintendent Swigert has done a really great job of that already in her time period as the superintendent to push outside of that thought process and really get uncomfortable with the traditional norms of how we do this. So just a few thoughts and obviously we're working as hard as we possibly can on finding solutions for these things. But I think there are areas that, of course, we have to be really transparent about and honest with you all and honest with the community about. So thank you, President Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Sassy. Any other questions? I just have when we talk about the security manager position, can we get supplied their job description? I didn't get that. And it would be a wonderful information and link to the community if he gave at least an annual update, security update. Maybe twice a year would be great on how things are going. What are we doing to protect kids and those type of things. I think that'd be some great information for the community. I want to speak to the community, and I just want to say that as administration are having sleepless nights and the board is concerned, I really think it's important for now the community to get engaged as you hear about these different issues that we have, that retired teachers and retired people that could drive the bus. I'd drive the bus if I could. But at this point, we really need the community to rally around these issues and talk to each other about what can you do to support, especially when we talk about supporting the kids. All these issues affect kids. I mean, we've got classrooms with no teachers, that affects kids. And so I think if we all strap on our boots and get in the saddle and get to work of solving these problems, as Mr. Sassy said, it won't happen overnight, but it always helps when we feel like we're doing it together. Okay, so any other comments for Superintendent Swigert? Okay, we're still on any other comments from anybody? I'd just like to officially say that we no longer qualify for the Guinness Book of World Records, but we tried. We did try. I do have a couple of things. I want to talk about information versus gossip. I got an email from a person who said that I heard that you were going to have a bond present a bond in November, which I thought was very interesting because as board president, I hadn't heard anything about that. And living in a small town, we can tend to be very gossipy. And I heard this and I heard this and it spreads like wildfire. But I think it's important for the community to know that unless you read an email or get information that has been signed by our superintendent, then it's gossip. If you haven't gotten information directly from Mr. Sassy, the business administration, then it's gossip. If you haven't heard information that comes from one of the board meetings, then it's gossip. The 7 of us only have power when we're together. I don't know if you all watch those Japanese programs and they have individuals and then they come together to make one big monster. Well, that's like the 7 of us. We only have power when we're together. So I had a conversation with a person in the gym about a new sports facility that we've kind of talked about, and I talked to him about what we want and maybe where we put it. And so if he takes that and tells his church group, tells his men's group, tells people on his job, and all of a sudden people are talking about the district is building a sports, that is just gossip because it didn't come from the 7 of us. And so I think that's important for the community to know that, so that we can all kind of stay on the same page. And what the board has decided to do and committed to do to be transparent and give information is we've started, and in a couple of weeks, we'll start our website or a portion of the district website where the board will give out information. That would be official because again, it would come from the board. And also a committee that had been dormant that we're going to start back as the Community Outreach Committee. And I don't know what that looks like, but the purpose of it is to make a communication connection between the board and the community so you can ask questions, so you can say, I heard that Bishop Carr in the YMCA locker room said they're going to build sports facility. And I can say, well, that's just something we talk about. So we are doing things and the board doesn't does want to be transparent and connect with everybody. I have a special request as I talk about the website. On the website, we need to come up with some initiatives or things that we think that the board feels are important. So if you all can, the next official board meeting, just bring 3 initiatives and we'll put that together and combine that and so that we can have that on the website. Also, there's also a section for comments and not editorials, but if you just want to say something, you know, as a board member want to say something. Now, obviously, that would have to be filtered through the 7 of us and through Superintendent Swiger's office and Coy's office and my lawyer. Did you guys know I have a lawyer? That's so awesome. I have a lawyer, so she can read. Yeah. So we would have to make sure that whatever you all want to communicate is filtered through all those channels, and we'll get that out. So, all right. Yes, the chair recognizes Mrs. Stephenson.
I haven't even gotten to all those other questions were just for the superintendent report. Thank you, Mr. President. 2 items for other. The first, I am echoing what Mr. President said about the safety officer. I actually I would love to have a study session this fall about school safety. You and I had a conversation about some safety issues, and I was like, oh, because you got an update from the state did an audit on our school safety. You learned things from that I was like, boy, I've never, for example, you said kids will open the door to anybody at a school. I've never once given my kid a lesson that said, don't open the door for somebody at school. And I feel like that's an important, I think that is basic, and I feel bad for not knowing that I should have given her that lesson, but I'd love an update on that audit once Mr. Sargent gets his feet on the ground this fall. I'd love an update on what he thinks the issues are, and I would love what keeps me up at night, I know it's very unlikely, but if on our watch as board members, we had a school shooting and we hadn't talked about it and I didn't know what was going on, that would just, I can't even imagine it. So I would love to have a conversation about that early on this year, get an update on the status and find out what needs to happen to keep our kids safe. That's my first other. My second other, and Mr. Sassy, you mentioned we have things to do for staff retention for staff. It's in the short and the medium and the long term. I have said before, I'll say it here publicly, like, I think we need exit interviews for all of our staff. I don't know why all these staff left. I don't know officially. I know rumors. There's lots of rumors, tons of rumors. I would like for a survey. And I just want to be able to quantify that. I want you to be able to come to us and say, we know money is actually the 4th thing, but we know the first thing is this, and we can't control that, but we can't control the 2nd thing or the 3rd. So I would love a study session this fall on what your thoughts are on short, medium, and long term, because we think the pipeline that we're not getting enough people into the teaching profession. And I could be wrong, but I've read that the problem is that they're not staying in the teaching profession. We can't get them to teach past 3 years is what I've read nationwide, not in South Dakota. But so I would like, and that's a nationwide problem, but I would love for this district, as a board member, I'd like to know what we're trying to do to keep teachers past that 3rd year. Those are my 2 requests. Thank you.
All right. On a final note, board members, the committee assignments have been finalized, and Shirley will get that out to you if you have any questions. And Superintendent Swiger presented me with a updated and beautifully organized and suits my OCD issues to the T organizational chart. So thank you, Shirley, for getting that done. And
Bobby takes the credit for that.
okay, well, thank you, Bobby, for understanding my particular needs. So, all right. That being said, anybody have anything else? Seeing no hands. At this time, we're going to executive session SDCL 1-25-22.1. No further decisions will be made at that executive session. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, thank you very much for causing me to realize that needed a motion. Thank you.